Hello, everyone. If you can hear the sound of my voice, then that means you've tuned into Hex Radio. And if you're tuned into Hex Radio, then that means, at least for this moment, you've made me part of your life. And since that's the case, I'd like very much to thank you for doing so. It means so much to me to know that I mean so much to you. I'm Echo, your ghostly hostess on this adventure into the supernatural and the unknown. I'm a Hex Maniac, purveyor of the occult and practicer of magic, trainer of both ghost and psychic-type Pokemon. Speaking of which, when last we all met last week, I proposed a question to you all. What is your favorite Pokemon? Now, I had a feeling as soon as I asked that question that I wouldn't get many answers back. After all, this show is brand new. So I took it onto my own shoulders to do a little bit of a survey amongst my friends and family. After all, I didn't want this section of the show to be over in under a minute. Though, given the spell I'll be teaching you later, maybe you'd all be happier if the show was shorter so I could get right to the good part. Let's get started. How about with my very own brother, Sable? Sable is a psychic trainer, but despite that, his favorite Pokemon is Cubone. According to Sable, it's because it's hard to resist how sad and lonely they are without their mothers in the world. I honestly feel much the same way, and not just because I can identify with the loss of a mother. These Pokemon spend so much of their lives in emotional distress and pain, crying so hard the skull masks they wear, the very skulls of their mothers, actually vibrate from the cries. You would have to be a completely heartless and hollow person to look at a Cubone crying from loneliness and actually ignore them. Considering how many Cubone have been orphaned because of Team Rocket, I guess that says all you need to know about them. Next on the list is a friend of mine from Sinnoh, Birdkeeper Danny. She has a love of pretty much every bird Pokemon in existence, but for the sake of the list, she narrowed it down to Rowlet. Out of all the birds, I definitely approve. Mostly because when Rowlet fully evolves, it becomes a ghost type. It's not hard to see why Danny likes Rowlet. That round body and those cute little eyes make it just absolutely precious. And don't even get me started on the bow tie. Rowlet looks like such a dapper little fellow. Beyond cute. Rowlet and I even have something in common. I'm an agoraphobic and feel most comfortable in the bottom of my own closet. Rowlet tend to like small, dark, tight spaces. Clearly, we would get along perfectly if ever we met. Danny's husband, Mike, a scientist, said that his favorite Pokemon is Kabutops. Apparently, when working on reviving fossilized Pokemon, he picked the dome fossil first, without even knowing what Pokemon it came from. Kabuto was the first ancient Pokemon he ever met, and when it eventually evolved into Kabutops, he came to love the way it looked. And how could he not? It looks almost like a skeleton with scythes for hands. Plus, they are absolutely brutal. A rock and water-type Pokemon that lives in the ocean, rips its prey open with its hands, and then drinks out its insides. Kabutops is one hardcore Pokemon. The next Pokemon on my list is Haunter. It was voted for by my very best friend growing up and fellow Hex Maniac, Sophie, as well as her husband, the sci-fi maniac Doom. I wish I were kidding. He honestly goes by Doom. I would much prefer to call him Tater. Haunter is such a Hex Maniac type Pokemon to love, to be honest. When you think of ghost types, you almost always think of either Haunter or its previous form, Ghastly. Gengar, sadly, is often forgotten. It's probably because Haunter have such fun personalities. Playful, mischievous, and at times just outright silly. Haunter look a lot more frightening than they really are. Those big hands and jagged claws seem to be all for show, at least as far as Haunter is concerned. Speaking of husbands, my own husband, the ace trainer Orion, absolutely adores Bulbasaur. I've heard him call it his bulb baby, cabbage son, precious plant toad. The list really just goes on and on. I actually find Bulbasaur to be pretty cute myself. They have such expressive faces and large, cute red eyes. Though, don't let the cute face fool you. They're surprisingly tough. And even before evolving, they're natural caretakers, wanting to look after smaller and younger Pokemon. It's a trait that was bred into them through domestication, but that doesn't necessarily make it a bad trait. It's hard to find a Pokemon more loyal than a Bulbasaur. After meeting one, I can really understand how it would be someone's favorite. Now, I did receive 2 notes from a pair of gentle listeners in answer to my question about favorite Pokemon. The first said that their favorite is Sableye. Ah, Sableye. What a beautifully creepy ghost type. One look and you get instant chills. Those clawed hands, that spiked head, and those almost lifeless jeweled eyes. It's no wonder people think if you look too long into a Sableye's gem eyes that it'll steal your soul. Of course, that's all old wives' tales. In truth, Sableye lives in dark caves and loves to eat rocks and gemstones. Its bizarre eyes are a result of this and help it to see in the dark. Those clawed hands? Those are to help it dig through rock and soil. And, again, it's hard for me not to like a Pokemon who loves small, dark places as much as I do. Especially not when they're a ghost type. Our second gentle listener expressed a fondness for Vikavolt. I actually don't have very much to say about Vikavolt. It's an electric bug type, and smart as a whip, too. It actually uses Charge-a-Bug like a battery. They're ridiculously fast in aerial fights, and stubborn as can be. They have a rivalry with both Pinsir and Heracross on who's the best beetle-type Pokemon around. For a bug type, I can say that they are pretty awesome. And that's pretty much all I can say about this Pokemon. What your favorite Pokemon is tends to say a lot about a person, though it can be said to be all up to interpretation. A good example would be with Growlithe and Arcanine. You could be a real law-abiding citizen, good, just, true in nature. Or you could be the kind of spoiled human being who needs a guard dog and appreciates the classics. You could, in fact, simply like dogs, and find the tiger stripes and the fluffiness of the coats on both Growlithe and Arcanine to be endearing. It's really impossible to say which of the 3 it is. Sometimes, you might even have a favorite Pokemon that seems to go against your very nature, baffling everyone who asks. The best example in this situation would be with myself. Would you like to take a guess as to what my favorite Pokemon is? I'll give you a moment to think, but regardless, I can guarantee you'll get it wrong. Alright then, I'm just going to come out and tell you. My favorite Pokemon is Raichu. Now, just let that sink in. I, Echo, Hex Maniac, practicing witch, trainer of ghost and psychic types, paranormal spelunker, loves Raichu the most out of every single Pokemon. Doesn't seem very fitting, does it? And yet I've loved Raichu since the very first moment I laid eyes on one. Those chubby little cheeks, that round tummy, those precious fat little paws. Beyond adorable. Not to mention those quirky little ears and that incredible tail. Every time I look at a Raichu, I'm overcome with the urge to just scoop it up and snuggle it. They look so soft and friendly, so lovable. Do I care they're an electric type? Hardly. They have precious voices and cuddly faces, and I'd love them no matter what type of Pokemon they were. So, imagine my absolute and complete delight when a new form of Raichu was discovered in the Alola region. A form that was both electric and psychic. Finally, a Raichu I could welcome onto my team without worry. And one who was just as cute as the original. The Alolan Raichu has everything I love about regular Raichu, plus some added cuteness. That pancake tail, how round and soft it is, just like a big puffy donut. Those beautiful sparkling eyes that bore right down into your very soul. Truly, Alolan Raichu is perfection taken to levels of godliness. Now, to anyone still listening, it's finally time for me to teach you my spell. And this week, I'm teaching you my absolute favorite curse. One that I made myself. This curse is best performed when you can see the object of your ire. But if you can get a good mental image in your head, it can go equally well. For the purpose of this demonstration, I advise we all think about the most hated man currently on the planet. That's right. You all know exactly who I'm talking about. It should be fairly easy to imagine him. Bizarrely orange, even stranger hair, a voice that makes Mr. Mime sound like a Casanova. I'm sure you all know exactly who I'm talking about and can more than easily imagine. Do you have that image in your mind? Good. Breathe in slowly through your nose. Feel that draw of power that rushes through your body as you breathe in. As you breathe, feel it pool in the center of your chest. Now, hold your breath. Concentrate. Feel the vibration of that energy that you're gathering. As you let your breath out, imagine that that energy stays there, swirling, gathering. Breathe in again. Feel the pull, almost electric, through your nose, deep down into your chest, gathering there. Feel that vibration. Feel it gather. Now, as you begin to breathe out, feel that ball of energy stretch like a thread, moving up through your chest, across through your shoulder, and then down through your dominant arm and into your hand. Imagine that your arm is like a pen, and that energy is the ink. Your first 2 fingers are the very tip of this pen. With your fingers, draw a line in the air, flowing straight up vertically. See this image in your mind. The energy leaving your fingers and marking the very air as though it were a piece of paper. As you mark this line up, pull that down and to the left at a sharp angle. Then pull the line horizontally back to the right, and then lift back up. Quick as you can, flick the line back down. This symbol is the symbol of the curse. It can be drawn in the air, or even on paper if needed. When drawn in the air, as we've done here, when the symbol is finished, you flatten your palm and you imagine that you give it a little push. Now, when you push it, you're not pushing it just with your hand, but with your mind. You have to imagine that this curse you have drawn in the air is finding its way along towards the person you have the curse aimed at. When done on paper, you can either put it into the path of your target, or, if this is not possible, you can shred the paper up and then spit into it. Your spit will be what activates the curse. Now, this curse will bring bad luck down onto your enemy. Every single thing they do will fail. People will see them for who they really are, and even their relationships will suffer. It's a really good curse if you want to punish someone who's particularly two-faced. It's certainly not something you want to aim at someone who is just mildly inconvenienced you. Remember, if my curse works for you, then it's only fair if you share a portion of your good fortune with me. You can do this by going to your local coffee shop and buying an extra sweet double-shot espresso under the name of Echo. Don't wait for the coffee. You won't get it. I, however, will get the money you've spent on it, and the spirits will get a nice offering. If you'd like for me to work a spell just for you, or maybe just send a customized message, you can have a comment attached to the coffee cup. I'll get it eventually and send the recording right on its way to you. After all, I take commissions. If you have a question for me, please feel free to yell it directly into your shadow. I will hear you. And with that, I end my broadcast for the night. Please tune in later this week for my creepypasta reading. Maybe, if we're extra lucky, I can have something special ready for you all when next we meet. If not, I did receive a question from a gentle listener that I'll be answering in the next episode. Until then, have a great night. Happy hauntings.